Notice, the following video has been made to abide by YouTube's terms of service. This is Steve Shives. He's a YouTuber that started on December 20th, 2010. He is known for his videos on atheism, as well as topics about things such as 5 blank things and an atheist reads segments. But what really made Steve famous, or infamous in this case, is the fact that he becomes rather bizarre in his behavior. You see, Steve is not just an atheist. He is also a neo-feminist and an SJW. In recent years, Steve has become known for his videos about feminism and topics from SJWs, such as Islamophobia. He admires the work of Anita Sarkeesian and has been going on a rather odd campaign on Twitter. For some reason, he's been utilizing block bots to block out a large swath of people from his account simply because they disagree with him on a topic or two. If you follow someone he disagrees with, such as TJ, aka the Amazing Atheist, there's a good chance to be blocked by him, even if you've never spoken to him or heard about him before. And in case you're wondering, yes, I've also been blocked despite never talking to him. Because of his actions, his YouTube career has resulted in him being made the butt of a joke by the Creationist Cat and others. He has also blocked ratings on his videos and has been moderating his comments just so he can only keep those that he likes. And recently, he's made a video regarding atheism. More specifically, atheists on YouTube. The video is titled, 5 Toxic Things About YouTube Atheism. We're going to be looking over this video to see what arguments he's offering on the table.
Number 1, it has a sexism problem. Many of the most popular atheists on YouTube are brazen anti-feminists who insult and belittle women and men, but mostly women, who speak out against gender inequality. They also proudly deny the existences of things like the wage gap, rape culture, gender imbalances in political and cultural representation, and other problems that are widely accepted and seriously discussed outside of the misogynist circle jerk that is the atheist community on YouTube.
This is a straw man argument. What Steve is doing here is trying to oversimplify the argument of the anti-feminists to try to attack them while at the same time making his own arguments sound more reasonable. The thing is, Steve, these anti-feminists that you don't like tend to criticize information that's been spouted by current feminists who are wrong. Now, there are several problems marring the current generation of feminists, which include, but not limited to, using data that contains bias, misinformation, or has been improperly gathered in order to sway others to their cause, attacking their dissenters by calling them terms like sexists, misogynists, or even trying to keep said dissenters from expressing their viewpoints, and closing themselves off to keep from hearing said dissent.
But lest you think that sexism is the only form of bigotry running rampant in atheist spaces on YouTube, let me assure you, number 2, it also has a racism problem. And it's the best kind of racism too, the willfully oblivious kind.
Are you implying that there are acceptable forms of racism?
One of the most subscribed to atheists on YouTube recently made videos espousing his views that, for example, black Americans who speak out against racial injustice are part of a victim cult.
The video Steve is talking about is the one titled 20 Answers for Black People, made by the Amazing Atheist. I'm going to play a clip for you right now.
I'll be honest with you, if I hate anything about black culture, it's that it's such a victim culture, almost a victim cult. Our Lady of perpetual victimization. Every unfairness that exists in your lives is the fault of white people or society stacked against you. You might as well just tattoo "it's because I'm black, isn't it?" to your fucking foreheads.
Or the displacement of black folks by gentrification isn't a problem because it results in nicer neighborhoods with fewer thugs hanging around.
You do understand that virtually anyone can be a thug or criminal, right?
Or, my personal favorite, the true outrage isn't racism, but people calling people like him racists. Because why would anyone think that the white guy who makes a virtue out of publicly not giving a shit about black people was a racist? It's ridiculous!
Maybe the real reason they get upset when being called a racist is because of the manner of said word being used. Now, if they've been doing something similar to that of the KKK or Nazis from the past, then yeah, that would be considered racism. However, if they are just simply disagreeing with you on a topic and you call them a racist, that is actually a form of slander.
Hang on, I'm not done. Number 3, it has a religious bigotry problem too. The ugliest religious bigotry in the YouTube atheist community is, of course, directed at Muslims, who are commonly stereotyped as potential terrorists and whose religion is viewed as inherently worse and more dangerous than any other. But there's still plenty of judgmental condescension left over for Christians and religious folks in general. Many YouTube atheists will still cite belief in God as evidence of mental illness, thus denigrating religious folks and the mentally ill at the same time. Not that they give a shit. Pushing the religious into the mud and then pointing and laughing at them is one of YouTube atheism's most treasured pastimes. That might be why. Number 4, it's addicted to drama and conflict. Some of the most watched atheists on YouTube today began making videos in response to creationists. Some of them conducted themselves with class, dignity, and intellectual honesty, striving to have civil conversations with often exasperating adversaries. But even back in those less fractious early years, before the community's pervasive racism and sexism surfaced,
that is quite a sweeping generalization of atheists, don't you think?
The most popular personalities were those who gleefully bullied their targets. Small wonder then that once the creationist opponents had been exhausted, the bullies turned and found new enemies within atheist circles. And it turns out that most people who enjoyed watching obnoxious white dudes attack Christians were just as entertained by watching those same obnoxious white dudes attack women, Muslims, and racial justice activists.
You do realize that the targets you speak of were people who are SJWs, current generation feminists, and so forth, right? Generally, atheists and anti-feminists do research on the topic at hand before responding to the subject matter. Case in point, Suit Yourself has actually read the Quran and researched it when he made videos criticizing topics involving Islam. He's even provided links to his sources to allow people to see for themselves.
Number 5, it reflects poorly on the rest of the atheist movement. Ever wonder why, with a few notable exceptions, YouTube atheists are not invited to address secular conferences or represent atheist organizations to the public?
Because the current movement outside of YouTube is run by SJWs and current generation feminists?
If you're lucky, your first contact with atheism on YouTube came in the form of one of the more responsible voices, like Aaron Ra, Seth Andrews, or Matt Dillahunty.
Last I checked, Matt Dillahunty and the Thinking Atheist have considered themselves feminists. Is this a call to follow atheist feminism instead? The reputation of feminism has basically devolved to the point where people think of angry women that want female superiority due to the actions of the most vocal of feminists. Add SJWs into the mix, and you've got a kind of movement where people have to watch what they say, or else they're labeled a bigot or sexist and thus ousted from the community.
But unfortunately, it's much more likely that before you got to them, you discovered one of the people I'm talking about in this video, one of the proudly offensive, cluelessly bigoted assholes who might as well be caricatures of atheists drawn by alarmist evangelists.
Now I know for sure you're talking about someone like the Amazing Atheist. Honestly, just because you've had bad experiences with him, that doesn't mean you should paint others with the same brush.
We atheists like to pat ourselves on the back for being more reasonable than the religious folks, but I don't think that's true. And judging by the most visible representatives of our movement on YouTube, the most unreasonable belief shared by many of us might be the belief that we're the reasonable ones.
Actually, there have been videos pointing out the effects of SJWs and neo-feminists upon the atheist movement. Suffice to say, it has been badly damaged to the point where people believe it is just another group of nutcases that throw a fit whenever someone disagrees with the movement. One example of this is the Reason Rally, which had been held in June of 2016. It's considered a fiasco because originally it was meant to draw in 15 to 30,000 people, but instead only drew in a few thousand. Not to mention there was a plethora of issues that plagued this rally from the get-go. I'm going to leave you a few links of stories and videos that explain what had happened. In any case, this concludes tonight's business. So, I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Nobody cares if you're offended. Nobody cares if you think your intentions were all for the best. 'Cause every sentence that comes out of your mouth is a contradiction.